China, there were not many major changes like in Europe, similarly to India, in where the religions and cultural beliefs remained very similar to each other, very stable. However, there were some different statuses that were compared between the two places. In China, there was a mix between three beliefs or religions, which were Buddhism, Taoism, that created Neo Confucianism, which were all three of them put together. This was very different because in some places in Europe, many countries would have to ban certain religions to let new ones come through. It also changed the way that religion was perceived now that enlightenment was near. Many Buddhist monks try to make the religion more accessible to the commoners as well as people who were trying to get away from other places. It also emphasized the need for analysis instead of unsupported speculation. It also changed lots of things for medicine, history, agriculture, and different critics on those types of aspects. In India, something similar happened, but it was known as Sikhism. It was the blend of Islam and Hinduism put together. It was a way that these two religions were seen by the commoners or by the people who followed it. It developed a Sikh holy book, the Guru Granth, teacher of the book, and created a central shrine, the Golden Temple of Amritsar, and mandated distinctive dresses for men, and it changed the militant community in response to hostility. Something very, very different in the whole world's history period was the new way of thinking, the way that modern science was put in, and the Enlightenment. Enlightenment was basically a way that changed how people perceived many different religions, especially Christianity, because the church had so much authority that once people started to speculate and ask questions, the church didn't know how to respond to them. So they tried to put more strict authority on them. However, this changed because it made people wonder more, which allowed them to realize certain things, like the challenges that people put against ancient social hierarchies and political systems, as well as putting equality between racial and gender inequality. Many people would ask why is it that in Europe was more common than any other Western country, and it's mostly because communities like the Islamic, Chinese, and European people were more invested in certain things. For example, China had lots of technological accomplishments and economic growth that were very different from other places. And Europe was a uniquely favorable to rise of science because it wanted a lot of change now that the church was becoming demolished and needed something to fall back on. It also changed the way that people started to follow the rules. For example, in China, many started to change. Instead of having a main religion, they would focus a lot on education, which led to having certain tests that would make people follow their supposed correct career. That would also make the economic system in China a lot more successful than in other places. Many of these thoughts came from very different people like Isaac Newton from the Scientific Revolution, as well as John Locke and Karl Marx. These people brought up new theories of different arguments that became part of life. Like Charles Darwin argued that all of life was in flux, and it also changed many tradings between certain people. Like Japan kept up some European contact via trade with the Dutch, which allowed them to keep their authorities and connection. And it's crazy to think that all of these changes happened all over the world and they were all somehow connected. But this all came from the international trading that all the countries had at one point in their time with each other, because trading didn't just involve supplies and food, it was also ideas and religions, which led to mixes and different beliefs and questions starting to bring up. As you can see, to be to the point that we are now today, many things had to change. Like in China, different religions were mixed together, as well as India. European people had to face different challenges that challenged the way they thought and the way they perceived their life and their religion, which caused a lot of turbulence. But at the end, it was very beneficial because it showed us the different elements of religion and the beliefs and how a reformation could create a new mindset for people in different countries.